What's up, everybody? Mike from MT Aviation Photo and Film here, and today we are kicking off a new video series, and this is going to be kind of a podcast type thing where I'm going to invite some of my friends and fellow spotters over, as well as people that work in the aviation industry, and you can kind of get to know them, and we'll try and post a little heads up so you can ask them any questions you want. So we're also gonna talk about some stuff that I maybe wouldn't make a regular narrated video on, some of the smaller subjects, but things that still should get covered. So this should be a pretty cool little series. So our first guest today is gonna be Robert, who is the Detroit Spotter on Insta. So welcome.
Welcome. It's good to be here.
Thank you, thank you. All right, so we got a whole series of topics to cover today, but like I said, this is kind of a getting to know some of the Michigan spotters and some of the other people I hang out with. So to get started, why don't you just kind of tell us how you got into aviation and plane spotting?
Yeah, so probably about 7, 8 years ago, I was scrolling on Instagram, and my now buddy Samit, which is known as Metro Airport Spotter on Instagram, I saw a few of his photos, and kind of thought it was a cool thing to get into. So, went out to Detroit Metro a couple days and got some photos of now retired MD-80s and 747s that visited Detroit frequently.
So you do mainly photography. You don't really dabble in the videos like some of us YouTubers, but what kind of camera gears and lenses are you using?
So I mainly use a Canon 6D Mark II with a Tamron 150 to 600, and then for most of my night shots I use a Canon 80 to 200 f 2.8 to get some of those close-ups.
So obviously aviation for you kind of started off as a hobby, but how has that turned into kind of a work thing? Because I know your career kind of started a little bit, not how my career started, but we've both worked at some of the same airports.
Yeah, so I started at Will Run back in 2021, and just to get my feet wet in aviation. And when there was some downtime, I would, with boss's permission, of course, take photos on the ramp, and you know started working midnight shift and getting all these different types of aircraft that would come through Willow Run.
All right. So yeah, I worked at Willow on the side for a little bit too, and that's a pretty cool airport. There's a lot of
Yeah.
stuff that
Oh
comes
yeah.
in there that you don't normally see at a lot of the airports, and it's kind of everything gets funneled in there. A lot of old jets and cool stuff.
Like the Samaritan's Purse DC-8 that
Yep.
and Chrono 737-200.
So after Willow, you kind of moved on to, we'll say, greener pastures and went to a much more known airport in Michigan.
Yeah, so after working at Willow Run, I moved to Detroit Metro, where it's a lot different, in terms of traffic and people. It's definitely some cool opportunities there.
Yeah, which that's also where I work for those of you that aren't aware. So, I asked you to bring a few of your favorite photos that we'll kind of talk about and show off. All right, so the first picture here looks like we've got a Antonov 124. So why don't you tell us a little bit about this one?
Yeah, so this was earlier in the year 2024 with 9 Antonov flights that came out of Leipzig, Germany, bringing automotive cargo. And I thought this photo would be really cool for others to see, because it's not really a well-known sight of seeing cargo get offloaded through the nose and sort of being in that up-close vicinity.
All right, so yeah, next picture we've got here looks like two USA Jet 727s, obviously at Willow.
Yeah, so this was after 727 US came back from heavy check in Georgia. It was quite a neat photo opportunity to have the first and only two USA Jet 727s in the new livery parked right next to each other, and just thought it was a cool sight to see at that time.
And I think the colors in this night shot are just really nice with that white and that blue. It really stands out against that black sky.
Thank you. And you can also notice in the liveries are not the same. If you look at some of the dots, they don't equal up on both aircraft.
Interesting. I also want to like point out, I think you're like probably one of the only other photographers in Michigan I ever see really doing nighttime photography, which is like kind of interesting to me because like I prefer night shots sometimes because you don't have to worry about it being backlit or anything like that. Like it doesn't really matter where the sun is, so you don't have to base like your angles off of lighting. You just get to put your camera kind of wherever and get a cool shot.
Oh yeah, I way much prefer night photography as, everything's pretty much level, decent light, and you can just let it sit for about 30 seconds, and you got a hell of a photo.
Yeah, and like I always think the light orbs are really cool. Here's one of mine. This is Delta's new Olympic livery on the 350 when it came through Detroit, and I just love the way like the nav lights and beacons kind of give those little star orb things, and yeah, I mean you can see it real good in this picture. All right, and then the last picture you've brought here, this is obviously an iconic aircraft that kind of everyone knows. So why don't you tell us the story behind this one?
Yeah, so this is when Air Force One came into Detroit Metro in May, bringing the president for a local rally, and as you can see with the ground, it was after a heavy downpour, so I thought it'd be a real cool photo opportunity to one, be real this close to, such
that's an opportunity not a lot of people really get.
Oh yeah, to be that close to such an iconic aircraft, and then the reflection, that I didn't realize until afterwards that I captured.
So that kind of brings me to a good point, and this is something I see a lot too on YouTube is like people asking like how you get so close, or like what spot is this, or how do I get there? And unfortunately, like most of the time we're spotting within the airport, and like I know that's something you get asked a lot too.
Oh yeah.
So like unfortunately, like when we post these photos and you guys are like, oh, how do I get there? Like we're not trying to be mean, but it's somewhere you can't.
Yeah, it's not
like,
a public spot.
Yeah, and I think like that's kind of a cool thing with like at least my content, and I know yours and some other people's, is that we're able to get within the fence, which is what makes like our photos and videos so unique. And like especially this one here, like you're not gonna see a lot of people with a picture this close to Air Force One.
Yeah, and it's it definitely differs when everyone's posting all these same photos of it arriving.
Right.
You can add your viewpoint from right next to it.
Right, and everyone's kind of like we're all gonna meet here and take the same picture pretty much, but then you go out and stand next to the plane and here it is. All right, so now that we've kind of gotten to know you and your aviation history and how you spot a little bit, you, like myself, are a big spotter in Michigan. And I think one of the kind of iconic planes we see in Michigan is the Boeing 727. And I would say it's safe to say that between like Willow Run and Oakland County, we probably see more 727s than any other airports in the U.S.
Oh, without a doubt, yeah.
And unfortunately, earlier this year, we did see Kalitta Charters retire the last of their 727 fleet.
Yeah, so 729 Charlie Kilo flew up north to Escoda, which is Kalitta's boneyard, for those that didn't know. And 729's current fate is, it's still in one piece, but it'll most likely be parted and then broken up, since there's no other 727s in the Kalitta fleet. And it sort of draws along with the 727 fleet, that 725 Charlie Kilo. There were some insurance issues, so that was sort of why they retired that aircraft. And then all the other ones pretty much just got way too old and didn't make any sense to run compared to this, newer 737s.
Yeah, and a lot of people are obviously upset about the decision to retire the 727, but for those of you that don't know, like the maintenance aspect of this, in order to maintain and keep an older plane like the 727 flying, like as far as corrosion and inspections like that, it's very costly. And then you also have the part aspect of it. It's extremely hard to get 727 parts. I mean, they don't make the plane anymore. And although some of the parts are like the same as other Boeing aircraft, there's a lot of parts that are specific to the 727, which if you can't get the part you need, then you're kind of out of luck. But talking about parts and aircrafts, since Kalitta has retired their fleet, that does put some parts on the market, which is good for some other airlines like USA Jet, who just saw their second 727 come back from heavy check and paint.
Correct. So, 726 Uniform Sierra was the first 727 that went down for a heavy check, and that was about early 2022, and it came back in the middle of the year, and they finally just got 727 Uniform Sierra back from Georgia. They underwent a very heavy maintenance check where they did discover some issues, but they were able to overcome the some of the corrosion and other issues they encountered.
Yeah, because I think in both cases that me, you, and Blake were kind of waiting for these planes to come out of heavy check, and we kept hearing dates, and those dates would just go by and by, and it seemed like both of these aircraft were in heavy check for a lot longer than they were scheduled to, and that kind of goes off the whole maintenance and finding corrosion and stuff like that. But thankfully, USA Jet was able to get all their issues fixed, and I mean, we have both of these almost brand new looking 727s with their new paint and the new USA Jet colors. So in addition to the two carriers that we talked about earlier that operated the 727s out of Willow, we also have our neighbors to the north, IFL Group, out of Oakland County International. And this is I'm out of the loop on this one a little bit. I used to live near Pontiac Airport and did a lot of spotting there, but eventually I moved out towards Willow and Detroit for work. So this is like kind of an interesting subject, and I really don't know all that much about it, but I think at the time when I was there, IFL had 3 727s, but they're now down to...
Yeah, so they had 3 727s, 215 Whiskey Echo, 216 Whiskey Echo, and then 281 Foxtrot Lima. And 216 and 281 both flew to Hamilton for their normal routine heavy maintenance checks, but both have undergone extensive searches and maintenance, and they've discovered problems deeper into the fuselage. So their heavy maintenance is being dragged out a lot more than the USA Jet maintenance that was about 6-7 months long, and they're sort of in the decision making of if they want to get rid of them or if they want to put all the money into bringing them back to life.
And I mean, IFL's fleet right now is not very big, and they're kind of not they don't really have anything to replace the 727 with.
No, just all they got really are Convair's, Falcon 20s, and CRJ 200s.
Yep, they were actually the launch customer of the passenger to freighter CRJ 200. I remember.
Did not know that.
Yep, I remember being at Pontiac that day to get it landing. That was quite a while ago, actually.
And they do fly some of the more younger 727s. So the fact that there's corrosion issues is sort of shocking, but compared to what those cargo aircraft go through, I mean, just another day for them.
Yep. All right, so that was a little bit about the freight side of some of the Michigan airports. Now we'll talk about a topic that's probably gonna upset a lot of people, and that's the Yankee Air. And I'm honestly, even though they changed the name, I still call it Yankee.
It'll forever be Yankee Air
Exactly.
Museum.
Yeah, so for those of you that did not see the video I posted maybe a month or two ago, I think, Yankee has actually sold their B-17 bomber, and this has upset a lot of people.
Oh, yeah. So it was sold to a gentleman out west in Chino, California, where his plans are to fly the aircraft out west, break it down into parts, and ship it to New Zealand, where they'll do, again, another heavy maintenance check, and then turn everything into workable condition. So the ball turrets, all the turrets on top, on the nose, all that will be able to move freely instead of currently how the museum has it, where they don't move them because they don't have the money to keep operating all that.
Yeah, and this is not the first aircraft that he has done this with. He's got
No.
quite the collection of older warbirds and
Yeah, he just sent a mosquito down, a British mosquito down to New Zealand to have them refix it all up and repaint it in a time appropriate livery.
so yeah, I know a lot of people are upset about this, but at least this does give the Yankee Lady kind of a fresh new life. And judging by the work that they do down there, it sounds like a pretty good thing that this plane's just gonna be just completely gone through and everything is gonna be in almost brand new condition, and any defects within the structure are gonna be fixed. I mean the B-17, they've had that issue with the wing spar. I made a video on that also if you'd like to see more info and some pictures. I actually had my hand in doing the inspection, which was a pretty neat undertaking. But obviously Yankees passed, but an aircraft that old, like you never really know what's going on under the scanner with the structures, and I think that kind of ties back into the 727s. Like until you start to do these inspections, like you don't see the corrosion from the outside until it's too late. So, although that is some pretty sad news about the former Yankee Air Museum and their Yankee Lady B-17, there is some cool stuff coming up as far as Willow Run spotting goes, and this is something I'm fairly excited for.
Yeah, so Kalitta Air is taking delivery of the world's first 777-300 ERSF. They have two currently in Tel Aviv that got converted, 778 Charlie Kilo and 779 Charlie Kilo. 779 was painted in the full Kalitta Air livery. It should the due date for the delivery is quarter 4 of 2024, so that'll definitely be cool to see if it comes through Will Run.
Which, given the past, for those of you that didn't know, when Kalitta first took its first 777-200, that actually did come through Willow as well to clear customs and kind of have a little show and tell at corporate. Because I think you were there
Yeah.
then too. Yeah, I remember me and Sean, aka Lep Aviation, we went out there to get it, and you were out there as well as a lot of other people, and that was just kind of a really cool thing because it was Kalitta's first 777 freighter, and I think this is going to be even bigger because, like you said, this is not only Kalitta's first 777-300, but this is the first 300 freighter, and one of the first 777s that's ever been converted to a freighter. For those that don't know, when Boeing builds the 200 freighter, it's got almost a completely different floor structure to hold the freight. So up until I want to say after COVID, you didn't ever see a 200 being converted from passenger to freight because it was just such a big undertaking with the floor.
Yeah, and I remember back to seeing them get their first 777. That brought out a massive crowd for a random weekday. So it'll be cool to see what the 777-300 brings out.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see it being the first, and I'm also pretty excited to see the crowd and get to meet some of the other Michigan spotters. So if that's something you are interested in and you guys are like a local Michigan spotter and you haven't checked it out already, both of us are moderators on the Michigan Plane Spotting group on Facebook. So go ahead and join that. Once it gets closer and there's actual information, or when the plane takes off, there will be all kinds of posts about it and probably people saying where they're going to be going to film it or take pictures of it. So, yeah, if that's something that interests you, definitely join that group. And there's a lot of good information
Oh yeah,
there.
and there's a lot of good photos as well in that
Yeah.
group.
Yep. All right. So last kind of topic we've got here. This is a interesting video series that I have kind of come up with. I've dabbled in it a little bit in the past, and you have thankfully agreed to help me with this. And we're gonna be doing a series, and it's gonna be called the Michigan Airport Series. And basically, it's gonna have kind of two parts to it. What our plan is, and we haven't really started this or started filming or shooting any of it, so this could change. But what we want to do with this series is go to the different Michigan airports and kind of show off some of the different spots. And obviously, I'll be showing off like the filming aspect that you can get from the different spots. And thankfully, I have Robert, who is obviously an expert photographer, that's going to be kind of showing off the different photography from the different locations.
And it definitely will bring light to some of the not as well known airports around Michigan. Definitely like Grand Rapids,
Yeah.
Lansing, that's, hardly photographed, and, all these other smaller
Yeah,
airports.
because there's a lot of really cool airports in Michigan that like they have some really neat locations you can spot at. Some even have like parks and stuff like Grand Rapids. And it's just since it's not Detroit and you're not seeing all these heavies and stuff, it's not as well known. So it'll be really cool to get some of that out there. And yeah, so like I said, it's going to be kind of a two-part thing. So we're going to have individual videos that feature like one airport at a time, but then the plan is once that's kind of done, what we'd like to do is make like one big video and obviously not have all the footage and all the spots, but it'll be kind of a video saying like, so this is, we'll take Grand Rapids for an example. We'll say this is Grand Rapids. It's kind of known for these aircraft. Here's where it's located, type of thing. Like it's not going to be very in depth, but you could easily watch this video and say like, oh, that airport looks really cool. And then from that video, you can go to the actual video on that airport and kind of see like, oh, like okay, so here's all the spots and how it breaks down.
Yeah, it's definitely a good idea to, highlight what each airport has, and, you know, open up everybody's eyes to what's really in Michigan.
So yeah, it's I think it's gonna be a really cool project. It'll be really fun because I mean, at the end of the day, we get to go plane spot at all these
Yeah.
cool things as research. But yeah, it's obviously a big undertaking because it's gonna be a lot of airports. Like I said, it's gonna be like some of the lesser known stuff, not just like oh here's Detroit, here's Willow Run. Like
Yeah.
obviously a lot of people already know about this. So really excited for this project. Just have to find time to do it. Alrighty, everyone. So thanks for tuning into our first podcast type video. Huge thanks to Rob for coming out today and helping me with this, and like I said, for helping me with the upcoming projects we have. Yeah. So if you guys like this content, I already have plans for some other fellow spotters and some other people in the industry that I'm excited to have over. So if you guys like this, like definitely drop a like, drop a comment. Let me know if there's like something you'd like to see added to these type of videos or any other feedback you have. So thanks for watching and listening.
Thank you. Thank you for the invite, Mike.
Yep, yep.